Hello, welcome to the Financial Intelligence Bootcamp. This is part one of an eight-part series um, received on part of the Richard Answer blog. I wanted to just record this really just to educate you, give you value, give you insight as to what financial intelligence really is, give you a bit more financial education. It's not really talked about much, in my opinion, and I'm very passionate about this subject. So we're going to go through it step by step. This session is going to talk about or introduce the concept of financial intelligence, asking the main question, what is financial intelligence? And so we're going to go through that now. Feel free if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the comments area that you see either below this video or within any part of my blog section, or just feel free to email me. My email address will be richard@richardanswer.com. That's richard@richardanswer.com. That's my email address. And I'll be more than happy to just write it out for you. richardanswer.com. All right. I'm more than happy to respond to any of the questions that you may have. So let's crack on. Obviously, this is on the fly, so let's just crack on anyway. Right. So financial intelligence, as I said before. So the main question is, what is financial intelligence? Before I go into that, it'd be worth my while and your while to explain different types of intelligences, if that's a word, um, that is available. We all have a skill that we are predominantly better at than others. Some people may be more necessarily good at athletics, or we call body kinesthetic intelligence. Some would be very good at verbal reasoning, or sorry, mathematical reasoning, logical reasoning, or just mathematics per se. You got those who have a strong interpersonal or emotional intelligence that can pick up other people's moods very quickly, able to respond to their moods or their uh, body language, for example. Very interpret, how someone's feeling. Some people are very intuitive that way. You've got intrapersonal intelligence, which is uh, similar to emotional intelligence, but more you're in tune with, personality types. For example, you can just mingle with anybody. Everyone loves you. You're just the life of the party. That's just a skill that you have naturally. Yeah. Then you got those who are inclined musically. It's just something that comes to them very easily. They don't have to think about it too much. They're just gifted in the area of music. That's their their strengths, yeah, or their natural bent, so to speak. You've got those who are visual spatial intelligence, so again, they can see things in their mind, very much forward thinking, um, good ability to really solve not just complex problems, but can see things a lot easier. Some people might even say, in terms of photographic memories, but they can see things a lot easier and a lot clearer than most people could do. Yeah. Then you've got verbal linguistics, those who can just speak languages without thinking about it. They really can pick up languages very quickly. In total, there's about 9 different types of intelligence types. And interestingly, financial intelligence is not listed in any of the books that I've read or seen. So now that we've covered, the main types of intelligence that most people are deemed to have, now I can address the question, well, what is financial intelligence? And effectively, it's people's ability to solve a financial problem easily. Yeah. Um, the best way to kind of explain that, if someone earns £100,000 in a year and pays zero tax compared to someone who earns £100,000 a year and pays 50% tax, then the 0% tax earner would be deemed to have more or a higher financial intelligence than one who's paid 50%. All right. So that's to give you a basic insight. And we'll go into this a lot more as the series kind of divulges. All right. Um, what I want to address, no one ever really talks about this form of intelligence called financial intelligence. Schools don't address it. Um, Maybe your parents or friends don't necessarily talk about financial intelligence much. Um, but it's important to us. Yeah. Obviously, it's to do with our finances. As I said before, there are people who are just good with money. Why? Just naturally have their so-called Midas touch. Whatever they touch turns to gold. It's in business. You give them £20, they can turn it to £100 without thinking. Um, how and why are they able to do this? Yeah. Um, when I say very few and far between, some people have it, some people don't. When you look at the statistics, the wealthy of this world is say 5%, and 95% of the world are necessarily struggling or don't have the wealth that the 5% have. Why is that? Yeah. But the good news is that just like anything else, financial intelligence can be taught, yeah, and can be developed. And it's interesting that schools don't teach this. It's interesting that most people, when you elaborate on this subject, have no idea. And so it's no wonder why a lot of people are struggling financially. People may not talk about money to you. However, generally speaking, people either living in their overdrafts, or they can't survive more than 1 month, even more than a day. If they don't get paid at the end of the month, they can't struggle. They can't survive, rather, they'll struggle. It's very few people that can have maybe 6 months earnings in their savings, and don't have to work. It's very few people that can actually do that. So, why is that? Why is it not being taught from very young? Why is it we have no idea about how to handle our finances? Why do we need to borrow? Why is it necessary to get into debt necessarily? People think that the only way to buy a house is with a mortgage. Why is that? That's not the only way. So it's good to address these situations and these topics. Um, so uh, just make sure I'm not missing a page. So basically, and I'll address how we can measure financial intelligence. Okay. Um, and what I said before, and I'll reiterate it again here, it's essentially financial intelligence is the ability to solve money or financial problems. All right, that's the definition of it officially. Okay, so as I've mentioned before, the main problems or highlights for the lack of financial intelligence is that it's not taught in schools. Okay, there is a generational challenge. Our young people are growing up and all they know is about credit cards and debt. Really and truly, it's not taught. How are we going to change that around? If schools don't take the challenge up, how are we going to address this situation? Yet parents, very few parents have any idea about how to teach their children about how to handle money the correct way. If your parents have only understood debt and borrowing, how are you supposed to teach a child about not operating in that lifestyle? All right. Um, then you've got with a generation emerging with no real financial skills at all. Could you go to university? Banks are just throwing money at you left, right, and centre, overdrafts, etc. If you don't have substantial savings or parents don't pay for your university, or your, just early years of growing up in terms of leaving the home and getting a job and buying a house, all those kind of things, or renting your first flat, how do you address the financial skills to survive? Or do we just think, oh, well, I don't have enough money and I want this now, I'm going to borrow. All right. Um, you know, and you've got people and families who are suffering and struggling in silence because of money. Someone commits suicide over money every 6 minutes, which is shocking. Yeah. Um, I've put a bit picture of Einstein here. I've put a quote, said here that Einstein was a good problem solver. However, you don't have to be an Einstein to live in a debt-free or financial life. It's not rocket science to live debt-free. It's not rocket science to live financially free. Yeah, it is important to learn a few skills, which can be done. Okay, there's opportunities for you to learn basic skills, which can literally transform and turn around anyone's life in the financial realm. Ideally, allowing to have money work as hard for you as you work hard for yourself, as opposed to you working hard to pay off somebody else or pay off debts or pay off bills. Okay. Um, it's important for you to understand, and I'll go into this a lot more in the few days ahead of us with a few uh, bootcamp presentations coming up, that to think of money as a game, okay? Because the rules have changed, and I think a lot of us are stuck in the past, not knowing why things are not working. All right. Um, and as I said before, no one, including the government or schools, are bothered to update you of what's going on. Okay, so it's important to find this information, educate yourself, and apply it in your life. Okay, learn the rules and play the money game to win. It's absolutely essential. Yeah. Um, So we're going to look at financial intelligence versus financial IQ. Let me just go back to the page. Um, I've already defined what financial intelligence is. It's your ability to solve financial or money problems. Okay, so what is the difference between financial intelligence and financial IQ? Essentially, financial IQ is how you measure the intelligence of somebody. Okay, um, so effectively, it can be measured in 5 ways. Financial intelligence. Okay, and I'll write that down now. Let me just change the color of my pen. All right, so financial intelligence, number one, is the ability to make money. All right. So as I was saying, financial intelligence or financial IQs can be defined in 5 ways. So number one, it's the ability to make money. Number two, it's the ability to manage your money. I do apologize or excuse my handwriting. I've been accused of having a doctor's handwriting. Hopefully you can make out what I'm writing here, or at least you can hear what I'm saying anyway. Number three is your ability to protect money. All right, it's vitally important to know how to make money. It's a skill that one has to learn. It's a skill to learn how to manage money. It's a skill to understand and learn how to protect your money. Okay, number four, how to leverage your money. Okay, vital skill. And number five, how to access financial information, how to find out what's working, what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. All right, vital. So just to repeat, okay, how to make money, how to manage money, how to protect money, how to leverage money, and how to access financial information. All right, so I'm going to leave it there. Just bear with me. Financial information, how to access financial information. So I'm going to leave it there. And in the next series or the next video that you shall receive from me, then we're going to start to break down the different aspects of financial intelligence, which I've just mentioned, in a lot more detail. So looking forward to hearing from you if you've got any comments or questions. Other than that, I shall see you in the next video. Thank you.